Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So in the last video, we built a React Redux application from scratch. But with Redux, we always make use of a middleware to get the side effects like async API calls. So in this video, we will use Redux middleware Thunk, and we will see how we can convert a synchronous action creator into an async action creator using Redux Thunk. So if this sounds interesting, then stick around. Also, don't forget to subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. So let's get started. Alright guys, so before we get into our video, I want you all to have a look at this amazing platform AccioJob. They provide complete training for full stack web development for free until you actually get placed for at least 5 lakh per annum. This is an extensive 6 months online course that anybody can enroll in for free, even without prior coding knowledge. You have some amazing mentors and they have a lot of students already placed in companies like Amazon, Paytm, and many more. They start a new batch every month and you can apply for the next entrant test that is on 20th June, which is absolutely free. They provide you with everything from complete data structures and algorithm to full stack development along with focusing on soft skills for interview rounds. They will make sure that there are opportunities lined up for you to crack your dream placements. Complete details are available on their website, so do check it out. The link in the description below. Alright guys, so I'm using the same application code which we built in our React Redux tutorial where we created a fake store using the fake APIs. So if you have missed that video, then I recommend you to watch that first. You can just click on the card above and jump to it directly. Let me give you a small walkthrough of the code. So in this, we have used the React router and we have two routes. One is the home route, which has the product listing component. And we have another route, which is the slash product ID, which goes to the product details page. So in the product listing page, we actually fetch the data from the server. And once we get the data, we dispatch an action which goes to the reducer and then we update the data in the store. And after updating the data, we fetch that data using the use selector and we display all the products on the product listing page. And when you click on any of the product, we go to the product details page where we again fetch the detail of an individual product. And once we get the data, we dispatch an action with the data, which is go to the reducer and then we update the state for the selected product. So I'm already running this application on the local environment. So let me show you the demo that we have built. So this is the application which we have built and this is the product listing page where we list all the products. And once we click on any of the product, we goes to a product details page where we fetch the data for the detail of that particular product. And if I go to the inspect and on the dev tool, if we go to the Redux, then in the state, we can see that we have two states. One is the all products, which list all the products. And another one is the selected product, which is the product which we click and we select the product. And when we click on the back, then we have another action creator, which is the selected product and remove selected product. So this was the Redux store. But if we go to the application code again, and you will see that all our logic for fetching the data from the server is inside the component. So if I go to the product listing, then this is the logic we have the fetching of data from the server and same with the product details page. Now, as we are using the Redux, then we should remove this logic of fetching the data from the components and put it in our action creators. We should only dispatch an action like fetch data, and then it should go to the action creator, make the API call, fetch the data, go to the reducer, and then update the store. So what we need to do is we need to remove this logic of fetching of the data from the component and put it in the action creators. So before we go and do it, let me show you a slide that will explain you how Redux is working in this project. All right, so right now we are not using any Redux middleware. So how the Redux works without a middleware? So if we want to make any change in the state, we actually invoke an action creator. This action creator returns an object which we call as an action. Then we pass this action to a dispatch function, and this dispatch function will forward our action to the reducer. Now reducer has a power to update the state and manipulate the state. So reducer will create a new state and that state we are going to use it in our components. So this is what we are doing in our fake API store. So now let's go and remove the logic of fetching of the data from the components and put it inside the action creators. So let's go back to the Visual Studio Code. So I will first create a new folder. So I'm going to name this folder as APIs. And then I'm going to create a new file inside this, and name of the file will be fake store api.js. And inside this, I'm going to write import Axios from Axios. All right. And then I'm just going to do an export default Axios dot create. And inside the create, I'm going to have an object with a base URL. And the value of the base URL would be our this one. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add this in the base URL. All right, so now we have this and now we can use this in our action creator. So let's go to the action creator. All right, and I need to make a new action type. So this action type will be the fetch products, and this will be equals to the fetch product. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to add this. All right, and now let's go to the action creator and write an action. So I'm going to just copy this and I'm going to add it here. I will change this to fetch products. This is not going to take anything. And here I will do the API call. So I'm going to write a constant and that will be equals to the response. And I'm going to write an await. So this will be equals to the await. All right. And then I'm going to have the Axios dot get. And this will be the products. So I'm going to write products here. All right. And once I get the response, I'm going to pass this response as a payload. So I'm going to add this here. All right. I will save this and let's go to the product listing page. And inside the product listing, we don't need to call this anymore. So I am going to comment this out. All right. And inside the use effect, I'm just going to dispatch the action. So we already have the dispatch reference. So I'm going to copy this reference and I'm going to add this reference here. And inside this, I need to pass a action creator. So our action creator is the fetch products. So right now, if I go to the action, I need to import the fetch products. So let's import the fetch products. So now what will happen when this component will get mount, a use effect function will run and this use effect will dispatch an action creator, which is a fetch product. So it will go to the fetch products here. And here I have missed the async. So let me write the async here. All right. And after writing the async, what I will do, I'm just going to console log the response as well. So I'm going to write console.log and it should log my response. All right. So once it gets the response, then I need to return this action. Now let's go on the browser and see what actually happens. So if I go to the browser and I will just zoom this in, then you will see that we get an error. And this error says that action must be a plain objects. Use custom middleware for async actions. And now what this error means, because sometimes your interviewer will going to ask you some questions based on this error. So what we have done, we dispatch an action, which is the fetch products. Then we go to the action, but it says that action must return a plain object. And if we go to our Visual Studio Code, then we can see that in our product action, we return actually the complete JavaScript object, which is a plain object having a type and a payload, but still we are getting an error. And that is because when you actually make an async API call in your action creator, you need to convert your action creator from a synchronous action creator to an asynchronous action creator. And this conversion can be possible if we use a middleware, and that is where we are going to use a Redux Thunk, which is a Redux middleware to make an async action creator. So let me show you some slides to explain this a little bit more. So this was the slide, which is the Redux without a middleware. And now what we have two types of action. So before we had a synchronous action, which immediately returns the action object with type and payload. So in our before case, what we used to do, we used to make the async API call in the component itself. And once we get the data, then we used to dispatch the action, which immediately returns you an action and it gets to the reducer. But now the scenario is that we are having an async API call inside our action creator. And that is going to take some amount of time to return the object and the type of the payload. So you are doing an async task inside an synchronous action creator, which is why you are getting an error. So what we need to do, we need to convert this synchronous action creator into an async action creator. And this can be done with the help of a middleware. So after using the middleware, how our Redux application will look like. So to change the state, we will invoke the action creator. It's still the same. Then it's going to return an object, which will be an action. And then it is going to dispatch an action. So this we are doing, we are calling a action creator in our dispatch function. So right now it directly goes to the reducer. And when it goes to the reducer, at that time, we don't have the data from the server. So now this dispatch will first go to the middleware. And now middleware will be in between the dispatch and the reducer. So before, what used to happen, the dispatch immediately forwards the action object to the reducer. But now what we want, that the dispatch will first forward the action to the middleware. Now this middleware will hold the action creator until it receives the data from the server. Once it gets the data from the server, and then it's going to dispatch again, and it will send the data to the reducer. And then the reducer will create a new state. So that's why it is known as a middleware, because it has the ability to get the action from this dispatch and then hold for a time until it gets do the all the side effects like the API calls and everything. And once all the side effects are done, it can manually dispatch the action to the reducer to continue our Redux flow. So let's install this middleware inside our application. So I will go to the terminal and I will do a new terminal, and inside the new terminal, I'm going to write npm install Redux Thunk. So this is going to install the Redux Thunk in our application. So meanwhile, what we will do, we need to make some changes in our store. So I will go to the store, and inside the store, we are going to import the Thunk. So I'm going to import Thunk from Redux Thunk. And what we will need to do is we need to import one more thing, which will be coming from the Redux, which is actually going to bind this middleware to the Redux, and that is apply middleware. So I'm going to import apply middleware, and I will also import a compose. So I'm going to explain you what this compose is. So right now what we have is our create store have a reducer, and then we have the initial state. So I can remove the initial state we don't want. And this is where we actually have the dev tools. So now we need to add a middleware here. So what we will do, we are first going to create a compose enhancer. So you can find the code of this compose enhancer on the GitHub for this dev tool. So let me show you. So this is the Redux DevTool extension, and here you will see that we are using with Redux if we have a basic store. So right now we have a basic store, we have a reducer, and then we have this Redux DevTool extension. But now we will be using a middleware. So what we need to do, we need to make a little bit modification for the advanced store setup. We will have a middleware, so we need to create an enhancer. So you can directly copy this part from here. So I'm going to copy this, and I will go to the store, and inside the store, I'm just going to add this here. All right, so now we have the compose enhancer, and we are just going to add this compose enhancer here. So this will become compose enhancer. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to just add it here. All right, and inside the compose enhancer, I will write a apply middleware, and the name of our middleware is Thunk. So I'm going to copy this Thunk, and I'm going to add this Thunk here. All right, so we have integrated actually our store with Redux and Redux Thunk. And meanwhile, our Redux Thunk is also installed. So let's go to the product actions. So what this middleware is going to do differently, let's go to the GitHub repo of this Redux Thunk and see. So this is the GitHub repository of the Redux Thunk, and you can read the documentation. So I just want to highlight here something. If I go to the source, and if I go to the index.js, so this is the small 14 line of code you will see is the Redux Thunk middleware. And that's it, the Redux Thunk middleware is. So what happens is the middleware actually returns a function, and inside the function you have two arguments. You can have a dispatch and you can get a state. So what we are going to do, once we dispatch the action from our component, it will go to the middleware, and now middleware is going to make an API call. And once the API call, it gets the data, it's manually going to dispatch the action creator. So this is the dispatch, the same dispatch we used in our components. So let's go to the Visual Studio Code and make these changes in the action creator. So I will go to the products action, and inside this product action, I'm going to remove this async. And what this actually going to do is this is just going to return a function. So I'm going to return a function, and this is my function. All right. This function will have two arguments. One is the dispatch, which we just saw in our in the GitHub documentation of the Redux Thunk, and the other one is the get state. All right. And from this, what we will do, we are going to do the API call. So this was the API call we were doing. So I'm going to cut it and I'm going to add it here. All right. I'm using await. So I need to add an async here. So I can add an async in the inner function, but I cannot add an async to the main function, which is the fetch product. Because if we add an async to the fetch product, we are not going to return a plain JavaScript object, the action creator. And that is where we are going to run into an error again, that you need to apply a middleware. So this is what the middleware we are applying. So the middleware is helping us to do an asynchronous API call inside our action creator. So here I'm going to get the response. And once I get the response, what I will do, I'm going to take this dispatch event. So this is the dispatch. So I'm going to copy this dispatch event. And inside this, what we will have, we are going to dispatch an action, which is having a type. So the type will be the action dot fetch products. And we need to add a payload. So this payload will be equals to response dot the data. So if I now remove this, we don't want this. All right, so now what we have done is we have converted a synchronous action creator into an asynchronous action creator using the middleware Thunk. All right, so if I save it and let's go to the browser and see the output, what actually happens. So if I refresh my page, I cannot see anything. So let's go to the inspect, and inside the network, I will just refresh the page. So I'm getting the 404, and that is because my URL is not correct. So it's not picking the base URL correctly. So we have made some mistake somewhere. So here we have the axios.get. So this is wrong. This is not an Axios. We need to import a fake store API from APIs, and from the APIs we need to have the fake API store. All right, and I'm going to copy this, and this should be added here. All right, and now let's go and check. So if I refresh my page, then I can see that I get the products, but inside the products, I need to have my state. So let's go to the state, and it's not getting added inside the reducer, and the reducer is not updating the state. So let's go back. So before we go and debug the reducer part, we can actually refactor this code a little bit more. So in this, we don't need the get state. So I will just remove the get state, and I'm going to convert this into an arrow function. And this code you will pretty much you will see everywhere while you use the thunk. And inside a arrow function, when you have a single return statement, then what you can do, you can actually eliminate this return as well. So I'm going to remove this and I'm going to add it here, and I will also remove this as well. All right, and now if I save it, then this is a perfect valid JavaScript code where you have a function which is actually returning another function, which is this one. So now we have done it, and now let's go to the reducer. So if I go to my reducer, where's my reducer? Will go here, and inside the reducer, we actually need to write a new switch case. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add it here. All right, I will just change this, and this will be my fetch products. So I'm going to change this to the fetch product. So when I have a fetch product, what I need to have a state, and then I need to have a payload. All right, now if I save it and let's go and check. So if I refresh my page, then I get action may have not undefined type. Have you misspelled? Okay. So let's go back to our reducer. We have the fetch products, and let's go to our constants. So I will go to the constant. I'm going to add this. I'm going to just do a search. So this is correct. Now let's go to the action creator. And inside the action creator, I have misspelled it here. So I'm going to copy this here. All right. And now if I refresh it, then we will be able to see that we get our data back. So here now we are using the async action creators, and we are using a middleware. So now if I click on the detail of a product, then the logic of this fetching of the product detail is still in the product detail component. So let's remove that as well. So let's go here. And if I go to my product listing now, then inside the product listing, I can actually remove this. We don't want it. I can also remove the set product. I can also remove the Axios. So now this is completely decoupled from the fetching of the data, because all this is now handled by the Redux and the Redux Thunk, which is the middleware. All right, so now this is fine. I can close this and let's go to the product details. All right, so now we are in the product details, and here what we will do, we will go to our action, and here we have the selected product. So we are going to make changes in the selected product. So what we will do, we will create a new function, which will be the fetch product. So this was the fetch products. Now the other one will be the fetch product. So it is just going to fetch a product. It is going to take an ID. We are going to have a dispatch. Then we are going to call the fake API store, and I'm going to do a backticks and slash dollar the ID, whatever the ID we get it. All right. And the action type, we are still going to make use of the selected product. So I'm going to copy this and I will add it here. So this will become selected product. All right. So whenever we do a selected product, now we need to make this call in the product details. So let's go to the product details from the action creator. Instead of the selected product, I'm going to call the fetch product. And this fetch product, I will just remove this. We don't want this. All right. And instead of this, I will be dispatching. So I'm going to write a dispatch, and we will dispatch the fetch product. And we need to pass an ID here. So let's pass this product ID. I'm going to pass the product ID here. All right, so now we dispatch the fetch product, which is an async action creator. We go to our action creator. We have a call of the API with a middleware. And then once we get the data in the response, we do a dispatch manually. And this is the selected product, and this will go to the reducer. Now inside the reducer, we are going to have a selected product reducer. And in this, we get the type, we get the payload, and this is all working fine. So let's go and test it. So if I go back, then if I refresh it, then we should be able to see all the products. If I click on any of the products, so let's click here, and we get the product details as well. So this is how you can actually add the middleware to your application when you are using a React Redux. So you can enhance this more. So right now we are only doing two operations: fetch all data and fetch an individual data. You can also make use of the create new product and delete a product. So this will completely a CRUD operation using a React, Redux, and a Redux Thunk, which is a middleware. So that's all I have in this video. I hope you now have a good understanding of how to use React with Redux and how to use the middleware inside the Redux to make your action creator, async action creators, to have these side effects like calling an API. So I hope you liked the video. A thumbs up is appreciated. You can also connect with me via Facebook or Instagram. You can also follow me on Twitter. I will add the links in the description below. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. Thank you. Thanks for watching.